Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some major breaking news coming out that it looks like we have a warning of a national security threat in the United States. Okay, if you look here on your screen, I've got a satellite in space and a nuclear missile heading towards it. Why do I have that on the screen? Well, this gentleman that you see here, this is U.S. Congressman Mike Turner. Okay, he's the chairman for the House Intelligence Committee, and he was warning Biden just the other day to declassify intelligence on a serious national security threat. Okay, and right away there was no information really coming out. It was just a national security threat warning, and he was telling Biden to declassify this intelligence so that way we can utilize certain operations in the United States to counter this threat immediately. Okay, and we had lots of Congress members, like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was coming out and urging calm and saying this was not an imminent threat. There was no major issue at the moment. So going back to this on your screen, so apparently what's going on here is that the House Intelligence Committee found out that Russia apparently could have the ability with a new weapon. Not sure if it's like a nuclear missile or what kind of nuclear reactor or what would be used here, but apparently they have the ability to launch some sort of weapon into space and take out US satellites or any enemy satellites that they want to take out. Okay, so that's a major threat, obviously, because satellites have a lot to do with communications. The military uses it. Okay, it would knock out GPS. It would probably impact internet to an extent, but not necessarily. But definitely communications would be impacted heavily. And this is obviously a big issue because if Russia wanted to, engage in war with the United States, the easiest way to do it would be something like that to basically blind the US. Okay. And I've got an article we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, I want to show you a clip. So, this is a clip of National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Here he is right here. And there's a reporter asking him a question in regards to national security of the country, of the United States. And go ahead and listen to his response and let me know how that makes you feel whenever he responds to this.
House Intelligence Chair speaking out about a imminent, or he doesn't say imminent, serious national security threat. The lack of your ability to say anything has the potential to raise distress for some Americans. In the simplest of terms, can you tell Americans that there's nothing they have to worry about right now in terms of what he describes as a national security threat?
Look, I think in a way that question is impossible to answer with a straight yes, right? Because Americans understand that there are a range of threats and challenges in the world that we're dealing with every single day. And those threats and challenges range from terrorism to state actors. And we have to contend with them, and we have to contend with them in a way where we ensure the ultimate security of the American people. I am confident that President Biden, in the decisions that he is taking, is going to ensure the security of the American people going forward. And I will stand here at this podium and assert that, look you in the eye with confidence, that we believe that we can and will and are protecting the national security of the United States and the American people.
Perfect. Thank you for your answer.
Okay, so just real quick, just to let you know, there was more, questions that were being asked here for Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor. And I will let you know that in many of these clips, he is dodging a lot of the questions, not really answering the question completely, as you can see there. The reporter asked him, so is there an actual national security threat? And if there is, are you going to assure the public that everything is okay? And he doesn't really say that, right? He doesn't really assure the public that everything is okay. He kind of says that towards the end, but in the beginning, he's like, well, there's a lot of threats. Everybody knows that. And this is the world we live in, yada, yada, yada. But he doesn't completely, come out and say that, hey, there's an imminent threat right now. Obviously, they don't want to, alarm the public. They want to keep people calm. But one thing I want to note here, too, is that do you all remember back in October of 2023? It was somewhere around October or so, beginning of October. all of the U.S. Congress members received satellite phones. Okay, why did they get satellite phones? Whenever those were being issued, everybody was wondering, asking the questions like, why is Congress getting these satellite phones? Well, obviously there's some sort of threat, right? So it wouldn't make much sense here if they were to take out these satellites, if Russia were to knock these out. Obviously, these satellite phones would not work unless there's some sort of backup there that they have for these phones should that happen. And maybe it has something to do with it. You know, I was definitely speculating a lot back when I found out about that the Congress members were getting satellite phones, and this could have something to do with it. But you know, we'll have to see as time goes on. But definitely, there's a major threat out there if Congress members are getting satellite phones. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. I'm going to give you some more information. So I got an article here that says Russia could blind the US by taking out satellites using a nuclear space weapon, says ex CIA chief. Leon Panetta, who served as a director of the CIA and the Secretary of Defense under President Barack Obama, said Russia could blind the US by using a nuclear capable weapon to disable satellites in space. Panetta spoke to CNN on Wednesday about an unnamed threat to U.S. national security. Multiple media reports citing U.S. officials said the threat was about Russia developing a nuclear weapon that could be deployed against satellites. Satellites are pivotal for transmitting information ranging from cell phone data to communications. So, obviously, that's why this is a major threat, right? So, if these satellites were to be taken out, communications would be down completely. So, how if there were to be like an imminent threat, like let's say there'd be cyber attacks, and on top of that there'd be these satellites getting taken out, the U.S. military would not be able to communicate at all between all their branches of the military to engage in a threat, like let's say an actual conventional war with Russia. We would completely lose the advantage and be knocked out of the fight immediately. Okay, it would make it very difficult to fight a war without communications, and GPS would be down. We wouldn't be able to track movement of ships or vehicles or anything like that. It would be very difficult to fight a war without satellites. On the CNN segment, Panetta spoke in hypothetical terms about how such a system could work, adding that he didn't have direct knowledge of the situation. If Russia could blind our ability to be able to gather that kind of information, make no mistake about it, that would be an act of war because it would threaten our national security. Very dangerous statement there, and it's true. Okay, that is our national security. Excuse me. He added that the US was likely developing a similar capacity to target satellites and defend its own from attacks. So I'm sure the Pentagon is developing the ability not only to track what the Russians are doing and determine whether or not they're going to try to deploy something like this, but also how they defend against it should it happen. The information initially came to light on Wednesday after Representative Mike Turner, a Republican from Ohio and chair of the House Intelligence Committee, called on the Biden administration to declassify information on the threat which he did not describe. So, just like I was telling you earlier, ABC News and the New York Times later reported that the threat concerned Russia developing a nuclear space weapon, which, according to the reports, could disable civilian communication, GPS surveillance from space, and military command and control. So basically, anything that uses a satellite, anything that uses communications, phones, radios, anything like that. If it uses satellite connectivity, it would be completely down. GPS would be a big one there. Okay, there'd be no ability to use GPS. Other reports described it differently. PBS News reported its sources saying the satellite could be powered by a nuclear reactor, but not itself a nuclear weapon. A former U.S. official told the Times that the U.S. does not currently have capacity to counter the threat, but the launch of the Russian weapon did not appear to be imminent. The use of the weapon would likely breach the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, a multilateral agreement that bans signatory nations, including Russia and the U.S., from putting nuclear weapons in orbit. Security experts have long believed that if the U.S. and Russia were to go to war, attacks to disable satellites could be among the first moves. The reports come as House Republicans continue their opposition to a bill that includes $60 billion in aid to Ukraine to help it fight Russia's invasion. Excuse me. So, I believe this has a lot to do with the war in Ukraine. Okay, a lot of these threats as well, because obviously the U.S. and NATO is funding the war in Ukraine. So I think this is also a threat in regards to that. But I've been saying for a long time now that this war in Ukraine has a lot to do with the way the world is going to move forward. It's really going to impact who becomes the next superpower, all these different things. Because so many countries have taken hits from this economically. Imagine all the money that's been spent, all the money that Russia spent, all the money that the West is spending. We're talking probably in the trillions by now. So there's a lot at stake here if so much money is being poured into this war. So I believe that this Ukraine war has a lot to do with what's going on here. And a lot of these threats are starting to come out because there's a very high possibility here that the war could go either way. But I really think that Ukraine is struggling right now and they are very vulnerable and very big possibility they could be on the back end here losing this war. So going back to this national security threat, it's obviously a very big issue. And the U.S. is looking into it right now to figure out what they're going to do about this. Do we have a counter to these attacks? What more information will come out? We'll have to see what does here over the next couple of days or the next few weeks. But if more information does come out on this, I will definitely let you know because this is a really big topic. This should be talked about on every major national news station right now because this is a national security threat, just like our southern border is. So I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video. And if you enjoy my content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That way you can be notified as soon as a new video goes live. And we do put out several a day. So I appreciate you being here. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks again for tuning in. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.